Joining us now is Joe Cirincione, who's an expert on nuclear issues. Mr. Cirincione, Japanese officials are now talking about fighting 2 partial meltdowns in nuclear reactors. Briefly, what's going on and potentially how dangerous?
This is an unprecedented crisis. It is extremely serious. One of the reactors has had half their core exposed already. This is the one they're now flooding with seawater in a desperate effort to prevent it from a complete meltdown. They also have lost control of a second reactor right next to it that is a partial meltdown, and there actually is a third reactor at a related site about 20 kilometers away that they've also lost control over. So you have multiple reactor crises at the same time. We've never had a situation like this before.
And what does it mean if you have a meltdown of a nuclear core?
The worst case scenario is that the fuel rods fuse together. The temperatures get so hot that they melt together into a radioactive molten mass that bursts through the containment mechanisms and is exposed to the outside. So they spew radioactivity into the ground, into the air, into the water. Some of that radioactivity could carry in the atmosphere to the west coast of the United States.
Really? I mean, thousands of miles across the Pacific.
Oh, absolutely. In Chernobyl, which happened about 25 years ago, the radioactivity spread around the entire northern hemisphere. It depends how many of these cores melt down and how successful they are on containing it once this disaster happens.
Now, you talk about the possibility of a huge exposure. The Japanese officials so far have evacuated people 12 miles from these plants. Is that far enough?
Not under a meltdown scenario, and you've seen these evacuation radiuses extend as the crisis has developed. First it was 2, then it was 6, now it's 12. We're told by some reporters on the ground that actually 50 kilometers out they're being blocked from access. So the effective evacuation area is actually larger than the official one that's been declared.
Put this in context. Japanese officials had been rating this as a 4 on a scale that I didn't even know existed, of 1 to 7 for nuclear events. How does the situation in Japan, as it now stands, compare to 3 Mile Island in this country in 1979 and Chernobyl that you mentioned in Russia in 1986?
If it were to stop right now, 4 might be a fair categorization of this, a local event without significant injury. But if it continues, it will certainly get to 5, which is the 3 Mile Island category of a serious event. We almost lost 3 Mile Island. It almost went meltdown. It stopped at the last minute. That's the situation we're fighting to maintain here in Japan. If there actually is a meltdown, that puts it into a 6, even a 7. That's the Chernobyl category, a serious nuclear incident with potential for large-scale loss of life.
So what are we talking about? 12 hours, 24, 48 hours? And what are the keys as to whether this becomes just a serious accident or a catastrophe?
We're in the key period right now. So the next 12 to 24 hours will tell us whether the Japanese officials are able to get control back over these reactors or it's gone, it's lost. The pumping of the seawater into reactor number 1 is that last-ditch effort to try to stop it before it's too late. If they can succeed, if they can hold it for the next 24 hours or so, then these reactor cores will cool down and will be in a glide path to containing this disaster.
Mr. Cirincione, we're going to have to leave it there. We want to thank you so much.
Are you confident that the Japanese government will be very transparent, very cooperative with the nuclear watchdog of the United Nations, namely IAEA? What do you think of the issue of transparency? Do you think to avoid furthering the impact and the panic that might be caused?
Well, this is sadly the case. I said that the Japanese nuclear program, one of the major builders of nuclear power plants is Toshiba Westinghouse, a U.S.-Japanese joint company. And the problem here is that the United States, when they sent over their planning team, they did not send anyone from their nuclear safety agency or from the Department of Energy. They sent members of the USAID, which is basically intelligence officials. So already the cover-up is going on at very high level in Washington and Tokyo. And the cover-up does extend not only to geopolitical issues, to technical issues, but also, we have Misawa Air Base was hit in the affected area up north Aomori Prefecture, and this is the main espionage reconnaissance base with huge antennas, C-3 Orion aircraft that China has.
Very quickly, UH, excuse me, UH, very quickly, what do you think of yes, in relationship with the possible cover-up by the Volcano authorities? Do you think the power base of the current Japanese government will be seriously shaken and the approval rating will drop even further?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just last night, the mayor of Suruga City, which is the site of the Monju plutonium breeder plant, and many other officials from other nuclear towns, they protested. They had a meeting with Japan's National Industrial Safety Agency requesting a full investigation and to stop the cover-up. So we have mayors in cities who are openly challenging the Khan government and know what's going on. These people have struggled for years over these issues. And Khan has come out as very weak. His response is that the Japanese people should just stay indoors and hide away. This is no national response. It's the local governors and even our...
Thank you very much, UH.
...have acted in a better way.
Thanks a lot for your insightful view.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Monday, March 14th, 2011, and I'm Darko. Welcome to part 2 of this GGN exclusive Japanese earthquake tsunami coverage for March 14th. Please visit my website, www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. I posted a poll just today. How much danger does Japan's nuclear radiation epidemic affect the rest of the world? You have very much, somewhat, very little, none, or not sure yet. All my videos are posted here. And like I like to go through this and just show new listeners and viewers, you can follow me here. Or you can go, that's for the blog, eBlogger, or you can go down for Facebook, and right here you can follow this blog. So go there and check that out. Otherwise, you can subscribe via email. Thank you for joining me, everybody. We left off with this article right here, and it's Nuclear Crisis Highlights History of Cover-Ups. Maybe it is a victory of cover-ups, right? And we moved on to this emergency special report, Japan's earthquake, hidden nuclear catastrophe, and it goes through there and covers that. I'm not going to cover this article just for time's sake, but the link will be posted. All the links will be posted in the first and second video. Here's the biggest news in this second video. Third blast strikes Japan nuclear plant as workers struggle to cool reactor. An explosion early Tuesday morning damaged the number 2 reactor at Japan's Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station, the third in a series of blasts that now have hit each of the 3 crippled reactors at the plant, officials said. And it said it was not immediately clear if the blast was caused by the buildup of hydrogen as occurred at the other 2 reactors, one on Saturday and the most recent one on Monday, when there was also a large explosion at number 3 reactor. Some early reports in the Japanese press suggested the latest explosion amounted to different and more critical problems than the previous 2. And then we'll move on to this. Reactor 3 goes down and quake hit Japan. Japan's nuclear safety agency has reportedly said another hydrogen explosion in Japanese nuclear plant has led to the failure of the 3rd reactor at the plant. And then we're going to move on here. Meltdown caused nuke plant explosion, safety body says here from the Nikkei Nuclear and Industrial Safety Agency of the NISA said Saturday afternoon the explosion at the Fukushima No. 1 nuclear plant could only have been caused by a meltdown of the reactor core. The same day, Tokyo Electric Power, which runs the plant, began to flood the damaged reactor with seawater to cool it down, restoring to measures that could rust the reactor and force the utility to scrap it. And then from the Mail Online, Japan's nightmare gets even worse. All 3 damaged nuclear reactors now in meltdown at tsunami-hit power station. Fuel rods appear to be melting inside 3 overheating reactors. Experts class development as partial meltdown. Japan calls for U.S. help on cooling the reactor. 180,000 people have been evacuated amid meltdown fears, and of course they're telling them to go inside and it's not that bad. Japanese officials, nuclear fuel rods appear to be melting in 3 reactors. So that's pretty much what we know from all these articles and different sources. We do know that. Tokyo nuke cloud crisis. Japan is teetering on the brink of nuclear catastrophe amid fears of a radioactive cloud that could envelop Tokyo's 13 million residents. The Foreign Office warned Brits to avoid the capital as it was feared a second nuclear reactor was heading for meltdown after Friday's devastating earthquake and tsunami. And it said there was also heightened concerns earlier today following a hydrogen blast 170 miles north of Tokyo at the stricken Fukushima nuclear plant. And moving on, a military crew said to be exposed to radiation, but officials call risk and U.S. slight. The Pentagon was expected to announce that the aircraft carrier Ronald Reagan, which is sailing in the Pacific, passed through a radioactive cloud from stricken nuclear reactors in Japan, causing crew members on deck to receive a month's worth of radiation in about an hour, government officials said Sunday. The officials added the American helicopters flying missions about 60 miles north of the damaged reactors became coated with particles or particulate radiation that had to be washed off. There was no indication that any of the military personnel experienced ill effects from the exposure. Everyone is exposed to a small amount of natural background radiation, it says in parentheses, but the episode showed that the prevailing winds were picking up radioactive material from crippled reactors in northeastern Japan. And ever since the quake struck on Friday, the authorities worldwide have been laying plans to map where radioactive plumes might blow and determine what, if any, danger they could pose to the people. And then there's that one map that's going around the internet, and it's supposed to be a hoax. So if you know what I'm talking about, it's kind of like a Google Earth type with the cloud. It's like it shows basically the levels and then distances within days, yellow, red, and orange or something like that. So supposedly it was from what was it, either rents.com or one of those sites. And supposedly it's bogus, but we still have here in the U.S. The possibility of having that radiation come over here, so it's not totally false. Give nuke neighbors emergency pills, U.S. lawmaker, citing worries over an earthquake-damaged Japanese nuclear power plant. A U.S. lawmaker called Monday for giving, quote, emergency pills to guard Americans near similar facilities from radiation illnesses. And then we move on to here. Radioactive releases in Japan could last months, says the experts. And then here we have admitted Japanese nuclear meltdown now means detrimental health effects worldwide. So, and it says, after repeated denials by the Japanese government insisting that radiation from the nuclear plant was a non-issue, recent video and reported evidence confirms the horrific truth. Japan is now preparing for the worst-case scenario, evacuating hundreds of thousands of people. The radioactive release may soon reach Canada and the U.S., and exposure may last for months. Recent media reports have downplayed the seriousness of Japan's quake-stricken Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant complex on Monday, saying that, quote, it is unlikely to have led to a large escape of radioactivity, the Japanese government said. Then we have from Der Spiegel, nuclear disaster will have, quote, political impact as great as 9. California is, quote, closely monitoring the Japan nuclear leak. And then it says here, warning radiation fear-mongering in health. Radiation fear-mongering in health by Carl Denninger. And it says, you go down here, and he was talking more about this, the iodine pills. So you can go down there and check, and he goes in there and says that what they're recommending as far as iodine pills is not accurate or beneficial, and he goes down there and tries to correct that. So you can go in there, the link will be posted. I'm going to move on for time's sake. Nuclear overreactions. Modern life requires learning from disasters, not fleeing all risks. And this Wall Street Journal article basically goes in there and says that the media is blowing it all out of proportion, everything's fine. Japanese nuclear fallout map, a hoax, says the explanation. When you go down here, it does say that basically there still is a threat. West Coast not at risk of fallout, Chernobyl scale meltdown unlikely. The Washington State Health Department or Department of Health says levels would be so low, no protective action would be necessary, and the State Department of Health says there's been no elevated readings so far. Experts, China not affected by Japanese nuclear leakage. Radiation poses no risk to Australians. Germany rethinks atomic power. Prime Minister says no need for nuclear power. Swiss suspends approval for nuclear plants, and U.S. still committed to nuclear energy. Japanese quake victim found clinging to his roof 15 kilometers out to sea in Japan to implement planned power cuts. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.